Everyone stood up and cheered when my name was called, but I could only hear the click of her high heels echoing like gunshots behind me. My dad's girlfriend, who is just 1 year older than me, strutted into my graduation like it was her fashion show, and not the culmination of my entire academic life. Let me back up. I'm 24, just graduated with my master's in clinical psychology. I did it all without help from my dad, who mostly vanished from my life after the divorce when I was 9. My mom passed away from cancer when I was 16. The person who stepped up to care for me in the years after was Liz, my dad's second wife. She wasn't perfect, but she cared. She was there when I had my first anxiety attack, when I bombed my SATs, when I got into my first choice college. And when my dad decided she was too old for his new lifestyle, he ditched her just like he did Mom. Liz didn't fight it. She walked away quietly, like someone who knew the fire wasn't worth the burn anymore. I didn't even know they were divorced until I came home from school one weekend and found all her stuff gone and a new woman's perfume on the upstairs towels. Fast forward to my graduation. I'd only sent my dad an invite out of obligation. We hadn't spoken properly in a year, and I was expecting a polite decline or at most a quiet appearance. Instead, he called me the day before, voice booming with pride, and said, "I can't wait to see you, sweetheart. And you'll finally get to meet Claudia. She's so excited." Claudia. The name burned like bleach. I'd seen her once on Instagram. Blonde, pouty, and looking like someone who exclusively communicates with emojis. My dad was 51. Claudia was 23. My dad is not rich. He's just obsessed with being young and relevant. I didn't say anything on the call. Just nodded, then hung up. And in that silence, a seed of revenge began to bloom. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because I wanted to feel like I had some kind of power again. So I made a phone call of my own. To Liz. She sounded surprised to hear from me, but not cold. When I asked if she'd like to come to my graduation, there was a pause. I told her I wanted someone there who actually helped me get through school. She started crying. I didn't expect that. The ceremony began smoothly. I was anxious but proud. Everyone clapped politely for each name. And then it was my turn. I stood, straightened my gown, and walked. That's when Claudia decided it was her time to shine. She clapped like a seal and yelled, "Go, baby girl." I froze. My dad stood beside her, grinning like a fool. The audience turned. Cameras flashed, not for me but for the chaos. My professor gave me a weird look. But then I saw Liz. Sitting on the end of the third row, dressed in a navy suit, hair pinned neatly, smile gentle and calm. She didn't cheer. She didn't clap like she was at a football game. She just nodded, eyes locked with mine, and mouthed, "I'm proud of you." That's when I smiled. After the ceremony, I walked past Claudia and my dad without stopping. My dad reached out. "Sweetheart, Claudia got you a gift." "I invited Liz," I said, cutting him off. He blinked. "What?" "I invited Liz. Because she's family. And because she didn't try to make my graduation about herself." Claudia scoffed. "We were just trying to support you, God. You're being dramatic." Liz walked up beside me then, calm as ever. "Hi, Rick," she said to my dad, using his first name like he was a stranger. Then she looked at Claudia. "You must be the new phase. Enjoy it while it lasts." Claudia opened her mouth, but my dad put a hand on her arm. "Let's go," he muttered, face red. They left. I stood there, heart pounding but lighter than I'd felt in years. But that wasn't even the craziest part. Later at the reception, Liz and I sat down with my two best friends, Maya and Jody. We were laughing about something stupid when Maya leaned over and said, "Hey, your dad's girlfriend? Claudia? I think I know her." I blinked. "From where?" "She went to my high school. She dated a guy who worked with my cousin. She used to brag about dating older men because they're easy to control." I almost choked on my drink. "Excuse me." "Yeah, she had a sugar daddy last year. Until his wife found out." I turned to Liz. Her face was unreadable, but I could tell something clicked. She leaned closer and said quietly, "That explains why she kept tagging him as her mentor on Facebook even before we divorced." That night, I checked Claudia's old Instagram posts. Sure enough, pictures from a year and a half ago of her at restaurants I recognized, ones my dad never took me to. Suddenly, the timeline didn't add up. Suddenly I realized something. Claudia wasn't my dad's new girlfriend. She had probably been there all along. And maybe that's why Liz left so quietly. I didn't sleep that night. I kept scrolling through Claudia's timeline like I was watching a slow-motion car crash involving people I loved and didn't recognize anymore. There was one photo that hit me in the gut. Claudia in a low-lit bar, holding a champagne glass with a caption that read, "When your mentor says you're special, believe him." Dated November 14th. That was 2 weeks before Liz packed her things and disappeared from my life. I'd always thought Liz left because she was tired. That maybe she'd had enough of my dad's ego, or the endless startup schemes he kept chasing like a dog chasing its own tail. But maybe it wasn't just fatigue. Maybe she'd known about Claudia and chosen to leave with her dignity intact. And she never told me. The next morning I called Liz. She answered on the third ring. I didn't even say hello. I just asked, "Did you know about her before the divorce?" A pause. Then a soft exhale. "I had suspicions," she said. "He started staying out late. Got really cagey with his phone. Changed his passwords. Claimed he was working with a new business consultant, someone young and full of ideas. Then I saw a message pop up one day on his iPad. It said, 'When are you telling her about us?'" I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to hate him more than you already did. And because I didn't want to drag you through another one of his messes." I felt my jaw tighten. "You were more of a parent to me than he's ever been. You know that, right?" She didn't reply, but I heard the tiniest sniff on the other end. "Thank you for coming yesterday," I added. "It meant everything." "I wouldn't have missed it," she said. "It was the proudest I've been in a long time." When we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment and stared at the ceiling, wondering if it was possible to grieve for a parent who's still alive. Because whatever illusion I had left about my dad, about who he was or what he cared about, was officially gone. But the drama wasn't. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. You crossed a line." I knew immediately it was from Claudia. I didn't reply, but she didn't stop. She sent me a paragraph-long message an hour later about how I humiliated her and made her feel unsafe at my own graduation. Unsafe? Really? I was ready to ignore it again, but then she sent a voice note. Her voice was dripping with that faux sweet condescension that girls like her had perfected in high school. "I know you think you're protecting Liz or whatever," she said, "but your dad loves me, and whether you like it or not, I'm going to be a part of your life. So maybe stop acting like some tragic little orphan and grow up." Tragic little orphan. That was the moment I realized Claudia wasn't just clueless. She was dangerous. And she'd been watching me longer than I thought. I blocked her number. Then I called my dad. He picked up after a few rings. "Hey, sweetheart," he said like nothing had happened. "Did you get the gift Claudia sent you? It was a necklace. Your birthstone." I nearly laughed out loud. "Are you kidding me? Do you think a necklace fixes what she said to me?" "What do you mean?" "She called me a tragic little orphan. She texted me nonstop. She's unhinged." He sighed. "Look, she was just upset. She felt like you embarrassed her. You brought my ex-wife to your graduation, for God's sake." "She was more of a parent to me than you ever were," I said coldly. "And Claudia was the woman you were cheating on her with. So don't act shocked." There was silence. Then my dad said something I'll never forget. "Well, maybe if Liz had kept herself up a little better, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." I hung up. No yelling. No tears. Just a silent click and a resolve settling into my bones like cement. He was gone. Not dead. Not sick. But gone from the part of my heart that still clung to the idea of Dad. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my cousin Rebecca. She was out with friends at a rooftop bar when she saw Claudia with another man. Older. Not my dad. Rebecca, being the chaos-loving truth bomb she is, walked right up to her and said, "Hey Claudia, didn't expect to see you here. Where's Rick?" Claudia apparently blinked, froze, and stammered, "He's at home." The man she was with? Definitely not Rick. And definitely not just a friend. Rebecca said they were holding hands under the table like teenagers. That's when I realized Claudia wasn't just some shallow young woman clinging to my dad for money or status. She was using him. Just like she probably used the guy before him. And the one before that. And somehow I couldn't even blame her entirely. My dad walked into that with open arms and a midlife crisis wrapped around his neck like a noose. But I wanted closure. Not for him. For me. So I asked Liz if she'd meet me for coffee. She agreed without hesitation. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. She wore the same navy coat she had at my graduation, and I noticed her wedding ring was finally gone. I found out Claudia's cheating on him, I said, not even bothering with small talk. Liz blinked. That was fast. I nodded. Rebecca saw her with someone else. My dad has no idea. She stirred her coffee slowly. He probably wouldn't believe it if you told him. I leaned in. I don't care if he believes it. I just want him to know what it feels like to be left. To be humiliated. The way he did it to you. To Mom. To me. Liz set down her spoon and looked me in the eye. Then let her do it, she said. I paused. What? Don't interfere. Let Claudia burn it all down. Let him taste the ruin he built for others. If you step in, you're saving him from the consequences. Don't do that. He doesn't deserve it. I sat back in my chair and let her words sink in. She was right. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge is doing absolutely nothing and watching karma take its turn. When we finished our coffee, she hugged me tightly. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a mother again. And when I walked home, I didn't feel like a tragic orphan anymore. I felt like someone who had survived the storm and walked out of it stronger. It took less than a month for everything to unravel. Claudia had been playing a dangerous game with multiple men, and my dad was just one of the players. I knew it was only a matter of time before he realized he wasn't the only one buying her expensive perfume or funding her business trips. But I didn't expect the implosion to come so soon or so publicly. It started with an Instagram story. Someone tagged me in it. I wasn't following Claudia, but someone from my grad cohort apparently still was. The caption read, "Claudia always knew how to pick the rich dumb ones." The video showed her dancing in a club, clearly tipsy, clinking glasses with a man who was definitely not my dad. Then the camera swung around, and there she was laughing, her arms thrown around his neck. And the voice behind the camera? Female. Dripping with mockery. "Claudia, where's Daddy Rick tonight?" Claudia didn't even flinch. She smirked at the camera and said, "Sleeping in his gold-plated guilt. Let him." And that was it. The clip was deleted hours later, but screenshots and screen recordings flew like wildfire through a niche corner of social media that adored messy stories involving men who tried to relive their 20s by dating girls with TikTok filters for personalities. I didn't plan to do anything. I really didn't. But that night my phone rang. Unknown number again. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, I almost dropped the phone. It was Claudia. "Look," she began, her voice unusually calm. "I know you probably think you've won. That you got me or whatever. But just so you know, none of this matters. Rick's going to forgive me. He always does. And if you're smart, you'll stay out of this. Family business is family business." I replayed that last line twice. Family business? What family? The one she burst into like a wrecking ball wearing designer heels? But it wasn't the message that made my stomach twist, it was what followed. The next morning Liz called me. "I just got a text from your father," she said, sounding shaken. "He said Claudia told him I've been feeding you lies about her. That I'm trying to poison his daughter against him." I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course she did. "He said if I ever contact you again, he'll file for harassment." The silence between us went cold. My hand trembled around the phone. "You're not harassing me," I whispered. "I know," she replied. "But he's scared. And when he's scared, he lashes out." That was it. That was the tipping point. I decided to write him one final message. Not to win. Not to argue. Just to end it. "Dad, you've made your choices. Over and over again. You chose Claudia not just once but repeatedly, even when it hurt the people who actually loved you. Liz never poisoned me against you. You did that all on your own. I invited Liz to my graduation because she was there when you weren't. She sat through parent-teacher nights. She took me to the ER when I had appendicitis. She gave up weekends to help me apply for college. You? You were busy reinventing yourself with someone who calls you Daddy Rick. I'm done being the collateral damage in your midlife crisis. Don't contact me unless it's to sincerely apologize, not to defend someone who's lied to both of us. I hope one day you figure out what love actually looks like. Until then, I'm stepping out of this mess. I blocked his number right after hitting send. It felt quiet, not triumphant, not victorious, just quiet, like finally setting down a heavy suitcase you've forgotten you were carrying. Days passed, then a week. Then the second twist hit me like a freight train. I got a message from an unfamiliar Facebook account, someone named Tina Morales. The profile picture was a woman around 30, brunette, holding a toddler. The message read, "Hey, I think we need to talk. I used to date Rick too." I almost didn't reply, but curiosity burned a hole in my resolve. So I messaged back, "Hi, how do you know him?" She responded within seconds. "He dated me for about 8 months last year. Said he was separated, getting a divorce. I had no idea there was a Claudia until she DM'd me last week calling me a pathetic side dish. I just wanted to reach out because, well, he mentioned you once. Said you were his daughter. And honestly, I don't know how much of what he told me was ever real. 8 months. That would have been during his marriage to Liz. That would have overlapped with Claudia too. Rick wasn't just being manipulated. He was also manipulating women. Me. Himself. I asked Tina if she'd be willing to talk. She agreed. We spoke on Zoom. She was calm, composed, and had receipts, texts, photos, even a couple emails he sent claiming Claudia was just a friend from work. She showed me one from last December where he called Liz a cold, boring woman who doesn't understand what passion looks like anymore. I was so numb I didn't even flinch. When I told Liz, she just sighed. "That tracks," she said. There were nights he wouldn't come home until 3 a.m. I thought he was gambling again. "You think he was dating both of them at once?" She gave a sad little laugh. "Rick doesn't do love. He does attention. Whoever gives it to him, he'll take it. And when it dries up, he moves on." I sat in that for a long time. I'd spent years chasing crumbs of love from a man who didn't understand what it meant to care for someone without strings attached. And now I was finally full, not because I got what I wanted from him, but because I stopped needing it. I started therapy a few weeks later. My new therapist, Dr. Tamara, was a calm, middle-aged woman who never once blinked when I told her about the chaos of the past few months. She asked me during one session, "What would it take for you to forgive your father?" I thought about it long and hard. And I answered, "I don't think it's about forgiveness. I think it's about letting go. Forgiveness assumes someone wants to change. I just want to be free." That freedom started small, muting mutual family friends who kept sending me updates about Rick and Claudia's on again, off again drama. Removing photos from shelves. Journaling. Talking. Resting. Then one day I got an email. From Rick. The subject line read, "Just one thing." The body of the email wasn't long. "I heard about the messages from Tina. And what Claudia said at your graduation. I don't know what's true anymore. Maybe I never did. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I just want you to know I'm sorry. I know I've messed up. I don't expect forgiveness. I just miss you." I stared at the screen for 5 minutes. Then I closed the laptop and went for a walk. Because I didn't need to reply. I didn't need closure from a man who never gave me security. I had already found that elsewhere, with Liz, with my friends, with myself. Somewhere between the chaos of Claudia's betrayal and the quiet grief of losing a father who never really showed up, I found something better than revenge. I found peace. Months passed. The email sat unread in my inbox, marked and forgotten like a dusty letter from someone who used to matter. There were days I almost clicked reply. But each time I hovered over the button, I asked myself, what do I want from this? And the answer was always the same. Nothing. I didn't want another explanation, another half-truth, another guilty gesture. I wanted distance. And I wanted peace. Peace started coming in waves. My relationship with Liz got stronger. We'd meet for brunch on Sundays. She brought a new kind of energy, like a woman rediscovering herself after years of being cast as someone else's supporting character. She'd signed up for pottery classes, started hiking, even dyed a streak of blue into her hair. First I laughed. Then I realized she was healing too. One morning I showed her the email. She read it, folded the paper napkin in her lap and said, "You know, he said something similar to me once. After he cheated the first time. But the problem isn't what he says, it's that he doesn't stay changed." I nodded. "Yeah. I'm not replying." She smiled. "Good. You don't owe him a damn thing." And that was it. The final nail in the emotional coffin. No explosive confrontation. No courtroom drama. Just quiet closure. But the story wasn't over. In early spring, I received a call from an unknown number again. Against my better judgment, I answered. It wasn't Claudia. It wasn't my dad. It was Claudia's sister. Her name was Rachel. "Look," she said. "I don't know you and I'm not calling to defend anyone. I just need to tell you something before this goes too far." My stomach twisted. "Too far how?" "Claudia's pregnant," she said flatly. I didn't breathe. "She's claiming it's Rick's," Rachel continued. "But between you and me, there were 3 other guys. Maybe 4. And now she's saying he should marry her." "What?" I said, voice thin. "She thinks a baby will lock him in. Honestly, I think she's spiraling. She always does this. Uses people, then acts like she's the victim when it blows up. You don't have to do anything, I just thought you should know. Because if she's about to legally tie herself to your dad, it's not going to end quietly." I hung up with Rachel still talking. I didn't even know how to process what I just heard. It was absurd. And yet, knowing Claudia, completely plausible. The next day, I got a text from my cousin Rebecca again. "Girl, Claudia is posting ultrasound pics. And your dad commented with my little legacy red heart. I'm not even joking." I checked the post. There it was. "Can't wait to meet you, little bean. Already so loved." And in the comments, Rick me father sounding like a delusional sitcom dad, who had no idea he was about to step into another emotional minefield. I felt a flash of anger. Not because he was having another kid, but because he was still doing it, still chasing the fantasy, still rewriting the same tragedy with a new cast. But then something surprising happened. I laughed. Not bitterly. Not cruelly. Just laughed. Because of course he was doing this again. The man had learned nothing. And somehow that was freeing. I told Liz. Her reaction? She ordered another mimosa and said, she better ask for child support up front. And that was it. I went back to my life. I started a new job at a youth mental health nonprofit. Moved into a brighter apartment. Made new friends. Rebuilt my joy in small, unflashy ways. I didn't look for updates on Claudia. I didn't unblock my dad. But stories find you. A few months later, I ran into Claudia completely by accident. I was at a bookstore downtown, reaching for a copy of Educated by Tara Westover, when she appeared 2 aisles down, pushing a stroller and wearing oversized sunglasses indoors. She froze when she saw me. I didn't. I walked right past her. She opened her mouth. Maybe to say hi. Maybe to say sorry. But I didn't stop. Because there was nothing left to say. The following week I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I recognized instantly. My dad. Inside was a photo of the baby. A boy. Squinting, wrapped in a blue blanket. There was a note. His name is Andrew. I wanted you to know. You're still family. I hope one day you'll meet him. I'm sorry for everything. I stared at the letter for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt distant. Like looking at someone else's life through a frosted window. I folded the note. Placed it in a drawer. Not to cherish it. Not to revisit. Just to let it rest. Because some wounds don't get closure. They just stop bleeding. 1 year later, I spoke at a panel for young therapists on healing family trauma. I told them the story, not the drama, but the heart of it. I told them that sometimes the people who are supposed to love us simply can't. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight for them but to choose yourself. After the panel, a young woman came up to me in tears. She said, I think I'm where you were a few years ago, trying to make someone see my worth. I hugged her. Not because I had the answers, but because I'd been there. Because I knew the loneliness, the ache, the weight. And I also knew that one day it would lift. That healing isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It's quiet. It's waking up one morning and realizing you didn't think about them at all the day before. It's ordering coffee and smiling at the barista because you actually feel good. It's choosing peace over proof. That's what this whole story is about. Not revenge. Not drama. Not even justice. But peace. So if you ask me now, was I the asshole for inviting my dad's ex-wife to my graduation? Was I the villain for trying to reclaim something that had been stolen from me moment by moment over years? I say no. I say I was a daughter trying to survive a storm I didn't create. And in the end, I didn't just survive it. I walked out of it whole.